Okay, so we are ready. I can see that you're ready for the start
Yeah,
session of the day. I want to tell you one thing and ask you
right.
one thing. I want to tell you that I'm going mad with your hat. I absolutely love that hat. And the next thing, I want to ask you, where are you located?
So I'm currently located in Portugal, Lisbon.
Okay, Portugal. Okay,
Yeah,
like Thiago.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like Thiago Costa, exactly. We're both
Okay,
Portuguese.
so are you ready to rock for the
Yeah,
last
the
session of the
sound is
day?
good. The sound is
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Okay,
okay,
great.
that's
Yeah.
fine. Okay,
Okay, let
so
me.
go on, please share your screen and
Okay,
you are free to
let's
start.
start. Let me just share the screen. See if there's no issue. I think it is. And the screen.
Okay, everything is fine.
Okay, let me try to F5 this. Okay, okay. So welcome guys to my session. My session is called Manage Your M365 Tenant and Assets with Azure Runbooks and PnP PowerShell. Okay, so who am I? Let me see. Oh, it was the music. Okay, so who am I? My name is Rodrigo Pinto. I'm enterprise architect. So I have a background of software engineer on the last 20 years, more or less. Okay, so I'm a Microsoft MVP since 2011. I do a lot of projects. So I have my own company called Perspective Dragon. I do a lot of projects around the world, mainly in Microsoft 365, Azure AI, Dev automation, and all regarding the development stack. And I've been the speaker since I don't even remember. I did a lot of tech days. I do the European Collaboration Days, the ESPC. I deal a lot of gigs in the United States also, and I'm one of the organizers of the Collab Days Portugal. Okay, so in last year, I actually by a challenge of a couple of friends of mine, I released a book called Mastering Microsoft 365 and SharePoint Online, and I have a GitHub repo called PnP WSL2 PowerShell. So basically, it's a module for managing WSLs within Windows. WSLs for the ones who don't know what it is. It's Windows Subsystem Linux. So basically, you have Linux inside of your machine. So first of all, one thing that I need to actually say is actually thank you. And there's a lot of effort regarding this, creating this type of initiatives. I've been doing that for the last 10 years. So hats off for Chris and the entire team doing this. It's very important because it's free content. It's free willing people from around the world spreading around any knowledge, any session, and it's hats off for you, Chris. Okay, I know the work behind it. So let's start with the session again. Okay. Okay. So this is the agenda. So I will be talking about the Azure automation itself, a little bit of an overview for the ones who don't know what it is. Next, we'll be talking about the PnP using PnP within the runbooks, some advanced scenarios, the tooling, and the tips and tricks. Okay. Okay, so a little bit of an overview. So why? So what is automation? So whenever we talked about automation or whatever I talk about automation, it's always three steps that came through. So one is the cloud service automation. What the hell is that? Cloud service automation is you have a need of automate any any service or any type of integration within your systems itself. So Microsoft at the beginning when they start doing they created the automation was actually to do this. So it's like it's related with the process automation also, but it's actually triggering and managing other cloud services within the Microsoft stack or outside. Okay, one of the reasons they also created this. So the idea here was to actually have a service in the cloud that could create the virtual assets, mainly the infrastructure automation. Mainly initially was the virtual machines, and then you have all attached to the virtual machines, the network, the security, everything. So the automation itself is around that. Now, if you go to more C levels, more on the business side, when they look at the automation itself, they think of process automation. mainly whenever somebody receives an email or needs to integrate something with the current process on ServiceNow or on custom tools they have inside, they need a way to actually have the triggering between the other systems and their systems and trigger back whatever they need to do. So regarding the Azure Automation's capability, so it works in Azure, as you may notice. The idea here is we create our runbooks to automate all types of assets of operations on deployment. It can be monitoring and optimization. Okay, my idea is to have this type of feature always available. Okay, so the automation itself can be used to back up databases, patch VMs within the Azure, alert on services, and a lot of reporting also, stage deployment of a service or even reporting. Okay, and it's very powerful because it doesn't just restrict to the Microsoft environment. We can use this along the other systems. So Azure, we can create monitoring systems. We can actually interfere or inflect some settings on other systems. So basically, you can do anything. The most wacky thing that I saw on doing on Azure Automation was a guy from the Netherlands. He was controlling all of the thermostats and everything on an aquarium, and for feeding and all this kind of thing. So it works for whatever you need to do. So it's automated and it's in the cloud. It's always available. Okay. So if we look at the concept of the Azure Automation, it resumes itself to one asset. That's the automation account, and the automation account itself has four other concepts. It has the runbooks, where you actually have basically it's scripting that we call a runbook. We have the assets. It can be images, it can be connections, it can be credentials. Okay, and then you have the jobs itself. The jobs is whenever you're running a runbook, you will see the runbook running, executing, and you can see the states. If it's failed, if it's not failed, you have some kind of outputs. And so on. The workers part is basically the part where you can actually have an agent installed within your machine or within your data center that interacts with the automation itself. Okay. Looking at the runbooks, what types of runbooks do we have? So we have the PowerShell runbooks, and basically it's a PowerShell scripting. The supported versions are the 5.1 and the 7.4. Okay, currently. We have another thing called PowerShell workflow. Basically, you can design your diagrams, your runbook as a workflow with steps and so on. One of the things that's happening is this is a very appealing visual, but it relies on a technology that's going to be deprecated soon. So there's no real investments on the supplier on Microsoft side to actually do this. Whenever you try to do anything regarding the automation, so my advice is to use PowerShell or Python and forget all about the other ones. Okay, so the Python one, the current version is 3.10. You have the graphical runbook. It's basically you can design a runbook with stacks. The difference between the graphical and the PowerShell workflow, the PowerShell workflow is just text. The graphical, you can actually see the visuals, okay? And then you have the graphical workflow, again, to do whatever you need. So regarding the supplier itself, well, the investments that they have done, and I already mentioned, is only on the scripting side with no graphical parts. Now, the PowerShell workflow is not it's not an investment from Microsoft because it relies on an ancient workflow engine. For the ones that were messing around with SharePoint for a couple of years, the workflow manager used in SharePoint was and it still works, but it will probably be cut out soon. So that's one of the reasons that they don't do that. PowerShell is evident. The investment in Python is also one of the investments. Okay. So next, yeah. Okay, so before I start on the technical details on actually the runbooks and everything, and on the automation, one thing that I don't know if anybody know what's a managed identity. So basically, whenever you connect with something on Azure, you usually create an app ID, an app secret, or a certificate, all these kind of things. And basically, each time you create that, the certificate or the secret has an expiration date. Okay, for the problem with that is you actually need to have some kind of system or even another run book to actually see the validation of each one of the app secrets or certificates. But it's a little bit of a pain. So they created an idea of managed identities. And what is this? Basically, if it's like creating an app inside of Azure, and it's basically you can create it by checking out a button. And basically, you have two types of managed identities. The difference between this and the manual ones is this ones when they are created, they create an app and a certificate, but you don't need to manage that. So the duration or the certification of the date of the certificate is always it's always managed by Microsoft. So you don't need to do that. So you have two types of this. You have the system assigned. It's whenever you check the box and the system itself creates automatically the app and the certificates, and you actually can see the certificates, but I'll show you what is created. And basically the idea is for this, usually it's tied up with the life cycle of that service instance. What does that mean? Basically, if we turn on the system assignment on an automation account and later on you delete it, the identity or the app itself is deleted with that instance. Okay, that's the system assigned. One thing that usually happens also, you can actually create a managed identity yourself manually. Basically, this can make sense if you have multiple resources within your Azure environment, and you actually need to just create one and use them across them. Keep in mind that if you delete the other resources, this one will remain active, so you need to delete it manually. Okay. Azure PnP Runbooks 101. Let's see. Okay, so a little bit of introduction. This is more regarding with the PnP PowerShell. So since December 2022, the .NET 3.1 and the .NET framework is not being actually being developed or there's no investments on this stack from the Microsoft side. So basically, what does that mean? So PnP PowerShell version 2. Whatever will therefore no longer support 5.1 or the out of the box the out of the box PowerShell from Microsoft. Yeah, there are some cases. I put this slide also here because I got a lot of clients that are using the Azure Runbooks still with the PowerShell 5.1. Okay, what you actually need to do locally on your machine if you want to use the PnP PowerShell, or within the runbook, you can install the module. The version should be 1.12. Okay. Next. That's the change that happened last year. So for the new PnP PowerShell 3.1, I don't remember what was the current version. So the Microsoft also ended the support for .NET 6 in PowerShell 7.2. So basically, the PnP PowerShell, for the ones that don't know, it's a community initiative that the idea is to have commandlets that manage the Microsoft 365 stack through PowerShell. So they or us, because I'm part of the community also, usually go through the trend and try to support the products with the backends like the .NET itself. Okay, so the new version only works starting PowerShell 7.4. Okay, and for installing, I still have clients. Most of my clients already have the old version of the PnP PowerShell prior to the 3.1, and for installing for the version that works on PowerShell 7.2, it needs to be the 2.12. Okay, just a little bit of a warning on this part. Okay, so what are the steps? I'm going to show it live, but basically you created the automation account, you set the management system identity. You need to actually on this one, again, remember managed identity is an app automatically created whenever you check the box. You need to set the permissions on that app, SharePoint or Graph. You add the module itself to the automation account, and then you can set up the variables, credentials, any type of other connections. Pick the runbook type, create the runbook, test, and execute. So it should be straightforward. Okay, I'll show you and you see. Okay, let's start with this. Okay, so I already have a resource group called RG CDays Gris. So I'm going to, where is the ad? Just 1 second. Not seeing the add button. Just 1 second. Okay, so I'll click on the create new resource. I'll search for automation account here. This subscription. Okay. I usually use mnemonic. So guys, okay. One thing important also is the region itself. I have a lot of clients, European agencies, and one of the things is the where the data is. So I'm going to put North Europe. Then we're going to create and create. Should be quick. See, okay, go to the resource. Okay, so this is an automation account. So you have all of the regular, more or less all of the regular settings that you have on the Azure part, on the Azure assets. So you have an overview with everything. So one of the most important parts is the runbooks. So here you have the place where you can actually create the runbooks. You have a new thing called runtime environments. So I'll explain that part later. And you will have the jobs. Each one of them you will see working within the demo. You have a configuration management. The most important part is you actually have the shared resources where this is part of the assets. You can have credentials, connections, certificates, or variables that you can use and reuse. The schedule is quite powerful. Also, you can have a runbook running every hour. I think the bare minimum of the schedule is 1 hour, or every end of the day for reporting or setting something up. And then you have the account settings. Basically, if you see, whenever you create an automation account, right now it already created a managed identity on this thing. Okay. Okay, let me see. Let's start to create a runbook. Okay, we already have a couple of runbooks on PowerShell 5.1 that were created whenever you create an automation account. Let's create a simple one. Create a new one, and I'll call it get currency. One thing very important, whenever you're creating runbooks, try to use the same verb or the same expressions or the same way that the PowerShell commandlets are built. Get, put, set, test. One thing that Microsoft did 2 years ago, last year, I don't remember. They actually are enforcing the usage of the verbs and the usage of this kind of get, set, all the functions. If you put something else, whenever you try to deploy, in this case we're doing manually. I don't think they will block it. But the main idea, if you have automated deployment, whenever you're actually deploying the runbooks itself, the runbook states it's an invalid runbook. They have naming conventions enforced. Okay, so name, and I'll put select runbook type PowerShell. Okay. One thing new is the runtime environment, and basically this is slowly being integrated on whenever you create an automation account. Back on the old versions, whenever you do this, you had to pick the PowerShell environment. Here, I'm going to select, I'm going to actually create one just for you guys to see. So this is a runtime environment. A runtime environment is basically, it's like the definition of the container where the PowerShell will be, PowerShell or the other script will be, will be added. And it's important because, again, remember the PnP PowerShell works on a 7.4, so we need to make sure that whatever we do here, it's working on a 7.4. So I'm putting here run environment 7.4. Okay, select the language, PowerShell 7.4. You see? Okay, next and next. Oh, sorry, forgot one thing. So on the packages, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to add the latest version on PnP PowerShell, just for the best of the demo. Okay, and select. Okay, 3.1, next, and create. So this will cost a bit. Okay, it's actually quick. Usually it's a little bit slower. Okay, so I already have the runtime environment set. So I'm going to do next. I can tag. In this case, it doesn't matter. Just review and create. And right. The system does the validation and the runbook is created. Okay, so on the left, you can see the command that's available within this container, more or less. Okay, you will see a little bit more details what the container is in a bit. You have the runbooks itself, 3 of them, and then you have the assets. In this case, I don't have anything, I think. No, I don't have anything. So what I'm going to do now is basically I'm going to create, I have like a small helper here because I'm not typing every code here. So basically this runbook will invoke float rates or currency rates within the internet. Okay, so I'm going to save it first. If you look at the top, we have the publish, and publish is whenever you have the runbook ready, you hit the publish, and this thing becomes available for everyone. And you have the test pane, and I'll show you in a bit. Edit in Visual Code or edit in currently is editing in the portal. So basically, you can actually manage or create runbooks through an extension on Visual Code. I'll show you at the end. So let's do the test pane. Okay, so on the test pane, I have start, stop, suspend, view last test, all these kind of things. So what I'm going to do here is the runbook itself. If you remember, the PowerShell script has parameter for the currency. I'm going to put arrow here. I'm going to start. Okay. One of the things here is, again, this is the container. This is a VM that's actually striking out and being instanced, right? And the idea here is why I'm saying this, because it's not immediately the code or the runbook doesn't run immediately. Okay, it's starting right now, so it's a little bit it's not slow, but it's not as an Azure function that you can actually run the Azure functions in C. So if everything runs well, I'm hoping it will, because I've done this a lot of times, you will see a list of float rates between air and other currencies. See, it's running. Refresh job streams. See, okay. So basically, it's quite simple. So this is an easy way to show how the runbooks run the tests and all these kind of things. And you actually, I'm actually calling an external service to Azure just for you to see this kind of thing. So the output is this. So all good. I'm going to edit, then publish, and I'm going to create a new one. And this new one, it's very interesting because you can actually, let me just go here. You can actually see on the container, see the container itself, what is it? Okay, so I'm going to put I'm going to create a runbook called get VM info. Basically, what the runbooks does, select from existing, probably I have two already. I have one. Okay. Right. And review and create. Validation pass created. An idea of this runbook is to actually see what's that container, well, what's inside, right? I already have book here ready. It's a lot of things. So basically, it's loading getting the install modules, some kind of hardware information with it. Again, remember this is an instance of a little VM running within the. You cannot see the VM on the Azure part. It's contained here. Okay, I'm just running it, test pane, and we'll start. One thing curious with the runbooks is the first time you create a runbook, it takes a bit. The second time should be quicker to execute. Okay, so the instance is active. I don't know the actual parameters for the instance to be to actually be inactive or to be discontinued. Well, yeah, it was more quick than the other one. See, starting. Come on. Now it's running. Running. It's fast run or slow run. Okay. So here, again, the script has like get installed modules. You have all the modules installed. Okay. Yeah. Nothing fancy here. All the variables installed. Start to see what the runtime that they have. What's the machine? What's the system behind the machine? Some environments again. You can see that Microsoft is putting the Fabric stack on top of this thing. Okay. And then you can actually see what's the operating system. It's not rocket science. I just put the get the hardware of the machine itself, and you can see that's a Windows 10 running with this version with a PowerShell core version of 7.4.6. Okay, available total current PS instance memory. One thing I tried to get was actually memory, but I couldn't because it's very tied to the platform itself, to the Windows part. So this is quite interesting to see what's behind it. Okay, so I'm going to go again and publish runbook, and I'm going to create another one regarding the workflow. Create. I don't know why the other ones are not showing. Okay, create, and I'm going to create a new one, and this is, I'm going to just call it run workflow. Workflow. Run type PowerShell. Select the environment itself. Okay, review and create. Okay. Now I'm going to do the magic thing again. Work. Oh. Okay. So what is this? Remember again that part that's going to be soon deprecated. I don't know when. That's using the workflow engine to actually build the workflow. So the workflow itself, it's like an execution of a process that has a state, and this you can define your workflow to states. So state or stages, as you can call it. State 1, state 2, state 3, on these kind of things. If there's an error, you can actually do something about it. One thing curious on the workflows. If there's an error, there will be an option stating the workflow is suspended, but then you can restart the workflow. It's quite powerful. The one thing that the workflow itself only exists within the. I think this one will not work because I change it. Probably this demo will not work because I changed the runtime to 7.4. But basically, what the workflow will do, will actually execute, and it will test the seconds. So it's a small test, stating, oh, is this the current? So I add 60 seconds to the current time, and then that time is validated. I don't think it will work. Let me switch to the other one that I have ready, because the runtime, when I did this yesterday, the runtime was okay, but probably Microsoft Murphy's law just changed that thing to be defaulted. So I cannot do it. So I already have ATM info. Where's the workflow? Test the workflow here, just for you guys to see. I know that one will not work. So I'm going to start it. It's the same code, okay? So I'm not having anything. But we'll have a little bit more slowness on executing. Come on, dude. Let's make it a little bit. Sorry, folks. Starting. On. Still starting. It's suspended. Why it's suspended? Let me see. Refresh. So it does everything and then does the validation, check if the current date is equals to the initial date. So the current date is less the initial date. So it's I added 30 seconds or 60 seconds. No, I added 60 seconds to the current time. So the current workflow, it's suspended. So if I go here, we do the refresh, suspended. If I go here, and I'm hoping that 30 seconds will be already done. Let's me resume. Basically, what the system does is the state is saved within the workflow, within the environment itself, and restarts on the, yeah, it still doesn't work. Oh, it says resuming. Yeah, another thing that's a pain in the butt sometimes is actually the refresh of the portal itself. So it's resuming on during the state where the error was actually happened. Okay, let's see, should be more or less. Okay, it's completed. Now I don't have any errors. Let's look at the outputs. Okay, so if you imagine the script itself, if it was like a regular script, I executed everything, you will see the 1, 2, 3 repeated whenever I had the error. Oh, it still have the error. Let me see 1 second. Okay, didn't refresh properly. Okay, so the checkpoint was executed. I did a checkpoint, so throw an error on 8. Okay, and if you see the numbers starts after the checkpoint being executed, not the entire. So it can be useful. Again, PowerShell 5.1. It doesn't work for the new PowerShell core because Microsoft didn't do any workflow manager on top of that. Okay. Now let's go to more on the PnP side. Let's go again on this one. Sorry, this one. Let go this. Remember again on the manage identity part. So I have the manage identity here. This is the object ID. It's not actually the application ID. So one of the things we need to do is grab this and search within the Azure tenant itself. Oh, this. Can you search? Right. Okay. And then I can see the object ID is that one, but we need the application ID. So I'm going to copy this, and I already have a script here that actually, where is it? It actually does whatever we need to do. So it's using the M365 CLI, and it's basically grabbing the app and setting the permission that we need. SharePoint, sites full control all, Microsoft Craft, whatever. We need to put it here. Let me show you the permissions. If I go here and I go to the permissions, I don't see anything. Okay. If I execute this, so it will execute. Oh, it's asking for the authentication. We already executed and already applied, or it's applying. Okay, it's already applied. So if I go here in permissions again and I do a refresh, all the settings is here. Why we're doing this in PowerShell? Because we don't have any graphical user interface to actually add the permissions like we did on the app registration parts. Okay, so right now the app registration is ready to be executed. Again, very important, the app registration, sorry, the code that we run will use this managed identity to connect to the tenant using the PNP PowerShell. So I'm going to go to the source group again, the automation account again, and I'll do the PNP runbook. Create, create new, and I'll put a simple test, get website title, just a test. Website title, runbooks and PowerShell. Select existing and set this one. Review and create. To speed up a little bit because there's more content. Come on. Okay, I have a magical thing here. PNP. So basically, it's connected. And for the ones that you are using PowerShell scripting, or even the runbooks itself in the past, one of the things that usually annoys on the connection is you need to put the app ID, you need to put the certificate or the secret and all these kind of things. But this is very clean. So you just do this managed identity. It's assuming the system managed identity associated to the automation account, and it's simple. It simply works. Let me do the test thing quickly. Did I save it? If I save it, I get to the portal. Test thing. Okay, start. Let's see if it's quick. Skewed. Again, it should be automatically, but it's not. Okay, it's starting. And come on, man. Completed. Okay, the script itself just gives me the Excel demo site. You see, no interactions, no need to configure any app ID, any certificate or whatever. So it's clean. So it's very cool. I'm going to create quickly a new one just for you to see what kind of things that you can do. Because if you know PNP PowerShell, it's actually very powerful to do this thing. Get sites. Yeah, doesn't matter the name. PowerShell, the existing again, 574. Select. Doing create. Okay, and then magic stuff again. Already ready. Sites. So basically, what it does, it connects to the tenant itself and lists all of the sites. Okay. So I'm going to the test pane. I'm going to put here the URL. That's my tenant. And I'm funny, have a tenant with my name. Never mind. I cannot change it right now, at least. It's not an easy operation. Let's see. It's queued. Starting, should have a list of all the sites within my tenant. Hoping there's nothing weird there. It's neat. Stream display on the test is complete. Okay. Okay, so it's like a regular. Actually, this script is being used across all of my clients and friends and whatever. It's nothing fancy, so it's quite powerful. Okay, now getting back to the presentation itself. Check. Let's the demo itself. Okay. So some of the advanced scenarios, some of them I already talked about. So the check, we have the checkpoints, nested workflows, and continuous deployment, continuous integration of this. Okay. So the workflow, again, as you can see, it creates a checkpoint before you run anything. If there's an error, you can start all over on that checkpoint. Whenever you're using PNP PowerShell with this feature, always put the checkpoint before you do the connect. Okay, just a reminder on this thing. So if there's an error, you can resume the workflow itself. So it's quite easy. Okay. One thing we can do also is, so the examples that you see on the top are basically the examples that work with 5.1. This ones, the get PNP web in calling the workflows like this. We can call other workflows on PowerShell 5.1 like this. On PowerShell core, you need to actually use the Start Azure Automation account with all the information for actually executing. One thing very interesting, you can actually create a webhook attached to a runbook. Careful, because the webhook itself doesn't have any type of security attached to it. So whenever you do that, you probably have to create some network rules for specific machines to reach the webhook. Don't expose webhook. If I create a webhook and grab the URL, it's exposed publicly for the internet. Okay, so there's two things you can do. The network boundaries restrained to specific machines calling the calling the runbook through the webhook, and have some code validating if you're actually you should actually execute the runbook like a. Usually we put a signature, or you put a machine key attached to the workflow, and we send it as a parameter. And then whenever the workflow is running, he gets information from the webhook and compare that part. Okay. Another thing also, you have an option to actually have the runbooks codes in repos out of the box. It's kind of cool, but it's a little bit for the ones more that understands what I'm saying. It's a little bit more. It's not fully compliant for what we need. So the idea here, whenever I work with runbooks, there's a lot of tools that exist. One of them is from Microsoft. Another one is the tools that we build ourselves to overcome some of the challenges. Yeah, and that's it. So just your local tooling, and the tool that I'm mentioning is the Azure Automation. So back to Visual Code. You see, back to Visual Code. Okay, so it's the Azure Automation. It's the Azure Automation extension for VS Code. So this is actually connected to that one. I don't remember if it's that one or not. Is that one? Yeah, is that one? You can actually go here and actually hit the F5, and this thing will run within your local machine. One of the things I don't like on this part is two things. One is regarding the PNP PowerShell, we are using managed identity. In managed identity, if you run this on your machine, it stucks, it doesn't do anything. The other one is whenever you're creating this, if you look at the path, you can define a path, but Microsoft always puts a date in like a folder before your actually script. So it's kind of cool because it prevents you for overwriting existing scripts, but it's not cool for if you need to put this on a repo in a proper way. If I look here, if I go here and I look at my current structure, this is the current structure that I have to actually create and deploy the runbooks itself. So basically all the code is here. I can have multiple versions of the PowerShell runbook on the Azure Automation runbooks. So it's PowerShell. And basically it's easy for us to do instead of just relying with the out of the box part. Another thing very important is we created a tool called it's actually PNP Can. It's a set of tools. This is just one part of it. And basically one thing that it's very interesting, it's loading. It's a simple PowerShell script that's overlapping a couple of things and give you a possibility to execute this through the runbooks here on your code through the command line, or even taking advantage of one thing that, let me see if I have it here. I don't. Just 1 second, where is, I need to go to that's not here, it's here. I need to go here. Remember again, that's simple. So if I run this on my machine, it got stuck because the managed identity is looking for something on Azure. We're not in Azure, we're locally. So I hit the F5. And with that tool that I mentioned that we built, we can actually debug it and we overlapping the Connect PNP online that's on the tool itself. We already have an app here in the tenant, and everything is connected. So it's quite easy for us to debug local runbooks using code that will work here and work in the cloud itself. Okay. I have 1 minute, just 1 minute, just for the tips and tricks. And let's see. Okay, tips and tricks. So this is like a little subset, the most important subset that I use whenever I'm doing PowerShell scripting and runbooks. So use the $error action preference to stop. So whenever there's an error, the script actually stops. If you put continue, it's difficult for you to debug whatever it's happening. We can actually, whenever you do the first connection on the PNP PowerShell, you have like those warnings, the yellow warnings. This is for actually remove those warnings. Okay. One thing I do is actually within the PowerShell script of the runbooks, I put always a version. Okay. Another thing is the runbook naming that I already mentioned. So the Microsoft is actually enforcing this naming whenever you're deploying or creating a runbook. Runbook's execution limit is 3 hours. Okay. If you have a process that takes more than 3 hours, you need to look into the process itself and try to call the same runbook multiple times with parameters. I'll give you an example. I did a migration from the project server, I think project server, something like that, in Project Online, I think Project Online, yeah. And the idea was to get a report of all of the tasks. The tasks were more. It took more than 3 hours to do that. So what we did was we created a runbook with parameters from task 1 to task 100, and the other one from 100 to 200, and all these kind of things. Okay. So you can actually overcome the limit of 3 hours with that part and have like parallel execution within that scope. Okay, runbooks runtime versions can be mixed, so it makes sense. So you have a container with PowerShell 7.4 core, you can mix with the other ones. Okay, the other one is more related to the PowerShell 5.1 checkpoints outside the PNP connection. I already mentioned that. Protect your Azure runbook webhook. Already mentioned that. Again, put network boundaries, anything inside of the PowerShell script that you receive within the webhook parameters that you can validate. Adjust your dev tooling and the deployment itself. Use Bicep to do those kind of things. Bicep, I can show you a little bit what it is. But basically, it's something like this. It can actually, this is quite quick. You do it once, and you just deploy it across whatever asset you need. So it's reusable deployment. It can be have parameters and all these kind of things. So this creates the automation account, for example, system assign and everything. You don't need to do it by hand. Yeah, and that's it. Again, hope this thing was useful. For me, it's always useful. Try this thing and try to listen to other stuff. Again, reach me out if you need any help on this case, on PowerShell or anything that I can help. I'm glad to help with no charge usually. And that's it. Thanks, Chris. And thanks again. Hats off for the great event.
No, don't do that. We charge $500 per hour.
No, if it's a small thing, I don't charge.
Yeah, okay. We all do that. It's because of the community.
Yeah.
It's the passion for the community. So
exactly.
Thank you very much. It was a real honor for me to be with us today.
I'm honored.
If you join the MVP Summit in person this year, I look among the crowd for the hat.
Yeah, you will look for the hat and you will find me. Yeah, I'll be there.
I'm sure. Okay, so what should you expect next? I have to do a lot of video editing, and I will share all the videos of all the recordings so the guys can use them as the MVP contribution, and of course anybody else can use them as a reference and watch them anytime you like. So thank you very much, Rodrigo. Thank you all for your participation. Until the next one, thanks. What else can I say?
Thank you. Hats off, mate. Good.
Thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.